Welcome to Exit Liquidity / our own little version of Tap Talk. Excited to be
No, very glad to
hosting
be here.
/ co-hosting. I believe
Yeah,
this is
no,
episode
I'm really excited about this.
56. Yeah, likewise.
6, man.
Yeah, been going for a while, a little over 13 months now, I think. I talk about it like it's like my kid saying 13 months. We obviously we usually like to start out with a little bit of an intro, hearing a little bit about who you are, what your background looks like, kind of what brings you to what you're working on today. Would love to get kicked off with that.
Most definitely. So if you don't already know me, my name is Matt. Basically, I founded Tapioca back in two. A lot of people also refer to me as a sock man, El Jefe, a lot of different names. My background was in iGaming, sportsbook software, that type of stuff. And essentially, back my company that I was a product manager for in that sector was called OpenBet. It sold to another company, and basically, just doing my own thing. And I was always really into crypto. Got really big into DeFi at that point, and I mean, it just kind of progressed into a full-fledged obsession ever since then. So that's kind of the short and narrow from myself.
Awesome. Thanks, man. I think there's also a little bit of a delay between the two of us. We'll hope that irons itself out. If not, maybe we can address it a little bit further in.
Perfect.
Sticking with your background for a second here. It's a rite of passage on this show that in order to get on with the episode, we first have to hear your favorite story of your time being Exit Liquidity in this space. Just whatever
Oh
was most
man.
memorable.
Oh man, what a good question. No, so I mean, basically, I some talked about it before, but my one of my favorite protocols ever is was Abracadabra MIM. Essentially, I'm going to give two stories and make the first one quick. So the first one is regarding sushi swap. So I was really big into when sushi first came out. One of the lucky people who got rugged by Chef Nami back in the day. So there's that one. But going back to the Abracadabra one, basically I was field farming the hell out of USC during the height of the DGen box, USC strat, just including there's million, they're so far in the hole, they're burning through Bitcoin to keep the peg. And there was me. I much yield off that thing. I just kept going and going and going, because you get addicted at that point. You're like a dope head. You just got to keep going and keep going. And that yield while it's still there. And I kept going a little too much, and I got burned. I was Exit Liquidity for Danny, Civ, Quan. So there you go. There you go.
Yeah, that was a great time. That was a great time. I was also looped into that world. That whole that was probably my first go at just one of those leverage scales where you would put it all the way to the max and the icons would change. It would tell you you're insane, but man, that was fun.
Yeah, no, you'd go 10x long, sitting there. You're trying to use that shitty bridge they had on, I think it was Shuttle or something, and you're trying to shuffle this back and get out, and that's before we even went to Wonderland and Ampleforth. I mean, there's so many I could name, but the sushi getting rugged by Chef Nami and Dokwan killing me were my two favorites, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all Not all of us, but definitely everyone on this show has a bone to pick with some of those names. Matt, I want to just pause for a quick second. You said you were kicked off when you first started, and you're on your phone now. There is a little bit of a delay still, and it cuts out some. Do you want to take a second just to hop back on your computer?
Oh yeah. I'm sorry,
We can
guys.
wait. It's no
Let me
problem.
go.
No, that's fine. It's not your fault.
Take me 2 seconds. My apologies.
Yep. All good. Now we get a
Dude.
little solo episode in. All right,
Did-
calls
did
of the
you see
week.
that-
Go real quick.
Nah,
Give me
did you see
5
that
tickers.
video? Did you see that video of like that? Do you remember that guy that rapped about like DeFi and stuff?
No.
Were you around for that? Oh my
No.
god, it was on World Star Hip Hop. This guy made a rap video. I think F Dub posted about it, and dude, I was like, I retweeted it. I stared at that while max leverage on like UST in the MIM degen box. Tweeted about that, looking at the APR on time, and I'm like, this is not a top signal. This is fine. A grown man rapping on World Star Hip Hop about DeFi is nowhere near top signal. We're only going farther up. It's just crazy to think about how I just sat there, watched that video, and I was like, yeah, this is fine. And now if a single person outside of this space tweets about crypto, I go schizo and feel like I have to sell everything.
Yeah, we're all scarred, man. Anything that can like resemble one of those top signals kind of just makes me nervous these days. But then at the same time, I'm also upset. Not upset, but I'm also wondering where all the normies are at. Matt, can you hear us?
Yeah, no, you sound great. I should sound great as well. So
Oh yeah. Way
Oh, yeah.
better.
way better. I'm sorry about that, guys. Yeah, I for some reason StreamYard Exit Liquidity made my StreamYard hate me out of nowhere, and I was thrown off.
It was too powerful a collab. It couldn't handle all the
But yeah, I hope everyone heard my little story because I think it was pretty funny. If you haven't if you never were around then or whatever.
Yeah, we did catch it. We were able to understand you for sure. It was just
Okay.
just
It
a
was
bit
just annoying
odd,
to listen
definitely.
to.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so. But all good now.
Perfect.
Cool. So getting back into the swing of things a little bit. I've always been curious, why Tapioca? Where did that name come from?
Oh, what a great question. So basically, there was no name at first. There was no we were just like, this is what we want to do. But with everything you may notice that we do, we don't want it to be boring, just the same as what everyone else does. Oh, here's our logo with 3 lines of colors, and it's just in a different arrangement, and our name's Crypto DAO, and just very boring stuff. So we were like, we got to go really adjacent to what everyone else is doing, like as you can see from the pink color, like no one uses pink and that type of stuff. So essentially what we were thinking is I basically told some people that were like very early on to finding us. I said, I want it to be a food coin because I'm a huge fan of sushi. And I want something that kind of can like mutate to different things, like as far as to relate to like mutating the different like EVMs, non-EVMs, that type of stuff. And lastly, like something to do with financial freedom. I was just like throwing this stuff out to see if anyone could give me something. And this guy was like, hey, well, tapioca can be boba pearls, it can be starch and cassava and all this different stuff. And it's used in like, more impoverished economies as like a main export. And I was like, really? So as soon as he said it, I just started going, the name's Tapioca, as a joke. And people would laugh about it, like, no, you're not seriously going to name this Tapioca. And I did. I just, I never moved.
Yeah, I'd say I'm a big fan of the name. I do. Making that promo video, I did learn a little bit about tapioca itself, going from powder form into the balls and however else it can be formed. So I do like that. I do appreciate that analogy.
Yeah.
You talked about kind of tapioca before it had its name. I feel like Ali and I are a bit interested, and people in our community are kind of interested in the story of these protocols coming to fruition. I kind of want to hear a bit more about the process initially that you've had of this idea going from idea to sending the idea to a few people and then building to a protocol.
Oh
What's that
man,
process like?
it's a great story, actually, I gotta say. One day I'm gonna write about this, but so this is probably probably only the second time I've ever given this story. So basically, um, how it basically started was back in 2020. Like I said, I just left my job. I was getting really into DeFi, was getting rugged. And basically I just became obsessed with it. I don't have an economics background or anything like that, but I just literally became obsessed with it. And one of the things I looked at way back then was, Ethereum has a roll-up centric roadmap. There's a perverse incentive to keep creating L1s over and over and over and over because there's so much money to be made in it. So what we're looking at is dire amounts of fragmentation. Not even talking about app chains and all this other stuff. The level of fragmentation DeFi has then was crazy, and then you were just talking Ethereum, Solana, and like BNB. At most. Now Arbitrum, Sui, Say, Cosmos, Barachain, Monad, like we're at levels of fragmentation that's insane. And there's nothing interoperable. There's interoperability protocols like Layer 0, Wormhole, Axelar, et cetera, but there's the actual, like, if you want to use Uniswap and swap something on let's just say Monad or whatever, or Optimism or Arbitrum, and you're on Ethereum, you can't do it. You want to borrow from Aave or lend on Aave on a different chain than you're already on, you can't do it. So as a user, we're expecting users to go bridge from here, then swap this, then go there. It's like an absurd UX to ask from a user. But people are still making the trips to go to these other chains. So basically, I was like, look, the point of DeFi is yield. And to get that yield, we're asking people to go on 50 different chains. So we need an application that's interoperable itself that can get people yields that are sustainable. So that was kind of the start of the idea there, of kind of getting the wheels to turn. We met the Layer 0 guys really early on. And I was like, we were actually going to build our own interoperability like sub protocol almost, but we met them and we're like, this is perfect. It's modular. We could do whatever we want with this. So we had this like perfect marriage of, okay, we got we have a concept, we have something we can integrate with that no one else has used yet. And we can marry these two technologies and make something that directly addresses this problem. But so basically, I then immediately went, okay, it's just myself and Rector at that point, who's the lead developer of Tapioca. We're like, we need funding to make this thing. So I pitched Tapioca to probably 50 VCs, I'd say. Every single one either said no or asked us like ridiculous terms of like, oh, we want to buy the whole thing, screw the community, we'll just take it so we can dump on them. And I've always been like, I don't want to keep perpetuating this broken cycle of making protocols that last for 3 months and then you're on to the next one, that aren't sustainable, that just fail, and and that's it, and you burn all the people that believed in you. I wanted to make something that will last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, that can adapt to the ecosystem continually changing. And so basically I just said, screw it, I'm going to go to other protocols, other contributors to protocols, and see if they'll help me make this thing. And the ball just started rolling so quickly when I did that change. And I just said, screw these VCs. Let me talk to these guys. Also, guys like DCF God, Layer 0 themselves, Crypto Condom, different people like that. They all pitched in. We were able to get the money we needed, make a team that's now 20 people, and execute this thing. And then everything just blew up from then. I mean, it was just like a rapid influx of interest and everything like that, and support. And I mean, I definitely, maybe a little luck, maybe, you know, the right problem, right solution. I don't know, but it's been a wild ride ever since.
Yeah, I think the world of funding is exactly how you described it. And I think many people don't understand that fully. I mean, you look at some of the, I guess you could call them main characters in crypto, and people, I guess, sort of take for granted how, you know, how helpful they can be besides just shit posting. So I like
Yes.
that story a lot.
Yeah.
There are a lot of moving pieces inside the Tapioca mechanism. You mentioned your guys' is messing a bit with the kind of layer zero messaging system. Could you break down kind of at a high level all the pieces of Tapioca, and then we'll kind of break down each piece later on?
Yes. So essentially, for a long time, I would say like the Tapioca protocol, it's not really a protocol. It's more of an ecosystem of protocols. Like basically, to give like a very easy, lazy way of explaining what it is that Tapioca is like if you take like Go and Aave, Maker and Spark, you know, those kind of duos of like a CDP stablecoin platform and a lend borrow market. That's kind of the identity of what Tapioca is. You have Singularity and Big Bang, which are two protocols. Big Bang mints our stablecoin USDO. It's a CDP stablecoin platform, and then Singularity is a lend borrow market with USDO. So it's basically like an ecosystem that supports itself. Like, you know, you can mint your USDO, you can get yields on your USDO all in one spot. So it's kind of like a self-sufficient ecosystem. Then on top of that, you have all of our stuff with Layer 0, which is PearlNet, which we can get into in a little bit. And also what we call TWAML, or time-weighted average magnitude lock. You can kind of think of it as a huge iteration and evolution of from what like DeFi tokenomics or monetary policy would be, from like liquidity mining, vote escrowing, that type of stuff. You know, a lot of people found us from a Mirror article I did really early on called Death of Liquidity Mining, and where I introduced or reintroduced call option incentives, or the idea of a call option incentive, and protocol owned liquidity and all that type of stuff. So you kind of have about 3 or 4 distinct protocols that make up kind of an ecosystem that is all meshed together to support one another.
Yeah, definitely a lot to unpack there. I myself, I remember reading that article, The Death of Liquidity Mining piece, and that, you know, prompted me to go and write my whole own thing. That was a great one for sure.
Thank you.
I want to I'm curious as to the interoperability space is constantly changing a lot, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't really have a good understanding of what makes different players different. Like,
Yeah.
if I had to guess, I would say most people know Layer 0 because of all the airdrop farming, and most people
Yeah.
Your mic unplugged, Molly. Ali.
Sorry, that was weird.
Oh, it's all
StreamYard
good.
being odd today. So I'm curious as to when you made the decision to use Layer 0 for Tapioca DAO, what was the thinking behind that? Why did you choose Layer 0 over Axelar or Wormhole or some other general messaging protocol?
Great question. Yeah. So basically, this goes back to the kind of early thinking of this. So, you know, back 2020, we had bridges, we had interoperability protocols, we had Nomad, we had Wormhole, we had Ronin, we had you know, all of these different solutions. They all failed. Why did they all fail? They're all monolithic. They're all vendor lock-in, where you're basically piling you know, it's like basically like if you have one target that has $1 billion versus if you have 100 targets with $1 million, which one are attackers going to go after? The first one. because it's more profitable to do so. And it's very hard for like a single a single monolithic system to secure billions of dollars, just by nature of what it is. So the entire thesis was modularity will win over monolithic solutions. Axelar, CCIP, Wormhole, they're all monolithic solutions where you are locked in to what they choose. There is no way to branch out from it. What they say goes. If they get hacked, everything built atop it gets hacked. Whereas with Layer 0, we can choose what verifies our messages, and we can also choose what executes our messages. So Layer 0 really isn't like I don't consider it an interoperability protocol. I consider it a standard. It's a standard that's malleable, that which I can implement the standard in a different way than you do. Kind of like you have an Android phone, you have an Apple phone, you have a Windows device. They can all communicate. How? TCP/IP. And that standard is what ensures their stacks are cross-compatible. Layer 0 is the same thing. You can actually use CCIP adapters, Axelar adapters within Layer 0. So it's a lot of people don't know that, but basically you can, if you want to use Axelar, go ahead. You can use an Axelar adapter. You can have your messages verified by Axelar, everything, like just like you're natively using Axelar. The difference being, though, is you don't have the vendor lock-in. You can change it. You could say, Axelar is not working anymore. Let me use Google Cloud. Let me use Polyhedra. Let me use all of them. So you have all of this freedom of choice to do whatever you want, to build whatever you want. So I think that model is sustainable, because if we just keep building these monolithic solutions, we're just creating fragmentation, just like we're doing with L1s and L2s, where they can't communicate with one another. And the first solution that changes that is Layer 0, and that's why I've always been a huge proponent of Layer 0.
Yeah, I won't lie. A little bit of that messaging stuff tends to go over my head. I do want to discuss a little bit of like PearlNet specifically.
Yes.
What kind of changes did you make, I guess, on the Layer 0 foundation that you feel make PearlNet kind of exactly what you want it to be, and like the best solution?
Yeah, so it's actually very simple. So the reason why we built PearlNet and why we use PearlNet is because it's self-owned. We control it. No one else is able to exert control over what's confirming our messages or validating our messages. And essentially, here's the concept beside with Layer 0, kind of going a little bit deeper, is it's a verifier and an executor. So the verifier is what is actually validating your message is valid. So basically, you can use Chainlink, you can use Google Cloud, you can use Polyhedra, zero knowledge proofs, whatever you want. But here's the cool part. Like in our config, for example, we have a config where our messages need to be confirmed by PearlNet, Polyhedra, and Google Cloud. So two out of those three need to verify a message. So basically what that creates is censorship resistance, because you're talking about Google colluding with us, colluding with this is not possible. So that's where you're actually getting censorship resistance. And you can do 10 verifiers, 100 verifiers, whatever you want. So that's where you get the scalability out of Layer 0. Then on the other side, you have executors, which is actually what's picking the message up to go do whatever the operation is that your message is requesting. And essentially, an executor is just a mesh network of bots that they just see a message, pick it up, okay. And if a bot even says, we don't like Ali, we're not gonna take his message. Ali can confirm execute his own message. You can literally just go to Layer 0 scan and click execute, and job done. So it really creates an excellent design where You have the verifier, you have the executor. And because of being able to use multiple verifiers, being able to, anyone can run an executor, it creates a really decentralized, censorship resistant, and again, modular way of actually moving messages between disparate blockchains and networks.
Interesting. Yeah, I think you did a really good job explaining that messaging system. I'm imagining, like, if you've seen those new Amazon or like warehouse robots that are just like
Yes.
just going everywhere with like boxes on top of them. That's
Yeah.
what I envision there.
Yes.
I think that explains it well.
It does.
Now, I promise this is like the only other technical question I have, and
Oh, all good.
this is so. What's the difference, I guess, or what's the like noticeable difference for an end user and then also for like a developer between a wormhole and a layer 0?
Yeah, no, great question. I mean, so basically for a user, so Wormhole basically has what amounts to be a multi-sig that is with unknown signers. They call it guardians that are basically confirming the messages. You can't be a signer, only they can select who's a signer. And then basically it's the same thing. So that essentially that guardian network is signing the message to confirm it's valid. And then it's essentially same thing. They have a relayer that executes the operation of the message. So it's a very similar design. It's just that it's not, it's not modular. It's very centralized in the fact that you are relying that multi-sig, no one goes, oops, I lost my private keys again and loses 600 million. What's 600 million between a couple friends? And I mean, basically, so you're relying on that working. The other thing too is a lot of people look at finality and they'll go, hey, layer 0 confirms a message from Ethereum to Arbitrum in a minute, and Wormhole takes 25 minutes. Wormhole is really slow. So basically, that's another big component of why modularity is key, is because Wormhole says, okay, 60 block confirmations is what we require to say a message is valid. Layer 0 says you pick it. You pick how many message confirmations you feel safe with. So, for example, we looked at, okay, what's the biggest reorganization of blocks that Ethereum had in the last, 3 years? It was 7 blocks. So we said, okay, 14 blocks is safe for us. Now, Wormhole is going to say it's 60 blocks, whether you like it or not. So that, and for an application like Tapioca, where we need, like, if we're doing leverage and we're sending a message to Arbitrum to lever an asset up and then a message back to, blah, 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 having 60 block confirmations, you're going to be sitting there for 3 hours to loop something. Whereas layer 0 with 14 blocks, you're able to do it in like 2 minutes. So it's a big again difference in, and also again censorship resistance and decentralization. With layer 0, I have to figure for Tapioca to fail, Polyhedra needs to fail, Google Cloud needs to fail, PearlNet needs to fail, the executor network needs to drop off the face of the planet, and somehow nobody with an EOA can execute a message. All of that happens simultaneously. Where Wormhole, all that needs to happen is, again, whoops, I lost my private keys, and $1 billion is wiped off.
Yeah, those guardians that you described, is the comparable for layer 0 those executors? What's the comparable, or is there none?
So with layer 0, so the guardian network would basically be the verifier side, not the executor side with layer 0, because it's what's validating a message is legit. So that would be comparable to like what they're using for like where we're using Polyhedra ZK to confirm a message, or PearlNet. With Wormhole, it would be the guardian network is validating the message. So it'd be like a multi-sig. Like if we just had like a 4 of 7 multi-sig, that confirms the messages with a public key and a private key. Basically the same thing. It's a very simple way to, confirm a message without much infrastructure.
Okay. I want to shift over to the stablecoin side of thing. We're kind of trying to like jump around to all the things that are cool about Tapioca here. Before we talk about USD zero or do I call it USD zero or USDO? Or
Either is fine. So it used
Okay.
to be called USD zero, like actually a zero, but because X, you can't do a cash tag with a zero, we changed it to an O, just so people could actually go like, oh, I got my USDO, that type of stuff. So
okay. Before we get into USDO, obviously Athena has been the talk of the town recently, and this is the part of the show where we get you riled up.
Oh man,
because I have seen you have some very choice words about that model.
Yes.
Can you explain to us what's wrong with it?
Oh man, we could spend an hour on this. So very recently there's been a lot of like, I don't understand what it is. I think it's because people realize stable coins are where the fees are, the revenue is. Like you can, as a protocol, you can make a lot of money with a stable coin. So you've had like Libra where they're paying people to short their stable, and then whoops, it depegged. It's like, yeah, you're paying people to short your stable coin. And it's just, and then they're going, oh, the TVL is huge. Look at us. It's like, yeah, they're robbing you. They're robbing you. Like they're shorting your stable. But going to Athena more so I look at as irresponsible. Like I know they know better because they're smart guys. And I don't say that lightly. Like I really thought about this for probably a year, and I've talked to a lot of other people about it. Essentially, here's your problem. First of all, it's antithetical to DeFi because you're taking assets like staked ETH off chain and putting them on centralized exchanges. So right there, it's like, oh, I wonder why centralized exchanges are investing in this, because they're making huge money off this design. And they're draining DeFi liquidity with it and putting it back on centralized exchanges. So, that out of the way. Of course, you have custodial risk. Of course, you have funding rate risk where the funding rate goes negative, but they are correct that the funding rate did not go negative long enough for USDE to depeg. The one asterisk with that is nobody's been planning on sticking a few $1 billion in perp shorts on centralized exchanges before. So at scale, let's see if the funding rate doesn't go negative for long enough, which it may. But the bigger problem is we are stacking so much freaking risk on staked ETH. You have so much open interest. You have eigenlayer. There's so much risk stacked on top of a broken Jenga piece. It's like The Big Short where the guy's pulling the Jenga piece. That's staked ETH. And it's like to actually sit there and think that staked ETH is never going to depeg and then this thing's going to fly to zero, because all it takes is a slashing event. Because and we just saw a validator had a bug with Lido maybe a month ago, and there was a very small slash. They're all running Geth. Like it just takes a Geth bug and USDE's at zero. And it's like, oh, we got this $10 million fund. It's like a 10% slash, you lose 20 million right now. So it just makes no sense to me. And they keep dangling this huge yield at people. Like, I think people need to look at Athena not as a stable coin, but as a money market fund executing a delta neutral strategy that's issuing you dollar liabilities versus being a stable coin, which that's a mouthful, but it's just the risk here is insane. And it just like you also look at UXD did this before, it didn't work. Angle did this before, it didn't work. Lemma Finance did this before, it didn't work. And I don't like how they're going about like the FUD. Like it's like a Do Kwon, like, oh, let me address the FUD here. Dai's gonna die by my hand. Don't worry, guys. I mean, it's just I don't know. I don't like the marketing of it, and I don't like the design. I respect Chaos Labs and people like that who are looking at the like to manage this thing. I just think it's really irresponsible as a design.
Yeah, I think that was well said. Um, I I like on a more general note, I've noticed this like weird trend almost of like main characters starting to emerge and more of this
Oh, yeah.
like Doquan slash SBF type of language and mentality starting to pop up. Like, and it's like this is probably the part of the cycle where it is profitable to bet on these people, but at the same time, like I don't know, man. Like that man hurt me like not even what 2 years
Well,
ago.
yeah, and that's the other thing is like, we're like, okay, they have fire blocks and they're on centralized exchanges, and it's like we just saw SBF go to prison, CZ get indicted. Like decentralized exchanges aren't doing too well. I mean, let's just be honest. The SEC is going after Coinbase, although I hope Coinbase wins. So I mean, there's a lot of issues in that arena, and I just don't like the concept of sucking DeFi liquidity out and then a bunch of people getting blown to bits in this. It just I don't know. It's just too far for me. And some people say, oh, well, you're a competitor. I don't really look at us as a competitor to a USDE. Like we're a competitor to like DAI or I guess you could say maybe Libra, Prisma, and Abracadabra. Like I don't look at us as a competitor to this, but I mean, I just see a lot of people that will get drawn in with the yields and then get blown to bits, and it's just I don't know. And the last thing on it too is they have this chart that's pretty funny. If you pull it up, it shows all the stable coins, and it says like scalable, decentralized, and censorship resistant. And then they'll have like LUSDs, very censorship resistant, blah blah blah, and then USDEs in the middle. And I was talking to Ben, who's a contributor to Tapioca, and he's like, it's so funny because they put themselves in the middle because they're none of the three. They're not scalable, they're not censorship resistant, and they're not decentralized. Like, no, it's like the stablecoin trilemma, and we failed at all three.
Yeah, I remember all those discussions about the stablecoin trilemma and where
Yeah.
UST and USDT falls along it. I
Yeah.
am glad that discussion is being brought back to the forefront. I feel like stablecoins have not been they've not been like the hot thing for a really long time, pretty much
Yep.
since like Luna died, I feel like. And
Yep.
before that happened, it was a huge deal with the curve wars and UST and Abracadabra and everything going on there.
Yep.
So it is nice to see more attention being brought there, and especially good timing for you guys as well too, given launches coming up. Let's talk a little bit about USDO. How does that work? Why is it? I mean, I don't. Obviously we can't really compare it to Athena, but how does it size up against like other CDP models?
Yeah, no. So first off, the funny thing is back when we started building, it's like interoperability and stable coins. People are like, UST, I don't want to touch stable coins. And bridging, we just had Wormhole, we just had Nomad. We don't, both of these things suck. And then lending, like lending's bad. Like it literally was like, everyone was like, we hate everything you're doing. And now it's like, you're the best thing ever, which is very funny. But basically to touch on USDO. So the idea with USDO was to not reinvent the wheel everywhere, but to innovate where it counts. And what I mean by that is the CDP stablecoin design is the only design that will work for stablecoins. And here's why. In DeFi, you cannot emulate the trust of a government. Like you can't say, okay, we're 80% backed and just trust us, bro. We'll hit 100. Like you can't do that. Over collateralization is the only way you can do it. So CDP stable, over collateralization, push the boundaries on LTVs or the amount of USDO you can get out for how much ETH or staked ETH you can put in. That type of stuff, and liquidations where we wanted to innovate on. But essentially, USDO is a CDP stablecoin that will only ever be backed by liquid staking derivatives and gas tokens. So like ETH, Sol, AVAX, and then like staked ETH, RETH, all that good stuff. And essentially, LTV wise, everything's basically 88% plus. So you're getting a very good value out of it. We have leverage like Abracadabra, where you can access our swappers and get instant leverage on liquid staking derivatives and everything like that in a very frictionless way, which is great. And the liquidation side, we move to a full partial liquidation system. So basically, where if you go on Aave and you take a loan out and you get liquidated, they have a fixed closing factor, which means 50% of your collateral gets sold, no matter if you're only 1% below the, over in debt, basically. So you only really need to sell that 1%, but they're going to sell the 50% just to be extra safe. So with Tapioca, what we do is all partial liquidations, where we're just liquidating you, again, partially, just to put you right below the threshold of liquidation. So basically, you have really kind of like almost like CRV USD llama liquidations, if people are familiar. Essentially, where you're not going to get killed if you get liquidated, which is great. And the goal is to take a CDP stablecoin, the CDP stablecoin design, unleash it with liquid staking derivatives, unleash it omni-chain, because it's a native OFT v2, so it can teleport everywhere instantly for no fees. So you can have this thing on Solana, Avalanche, Arbitrum, anywhere you want near instantly, which is great. And basically you have that entire package where then you can get lending rates on it on Tapioca itself. So you don't even have to go elsewhere to get yields on your USDO. And there may be a liquid yield bearing USDO at some point. That's some alpha for you. But yeah, I mean, basically omni-chain CDP stablecoin backed by liquid staking derivatives and gas tokens. That's kind of the boilerplate sentence.
Great stuff. Yeah. The end summary definitely helps. Does any version of that exist yet, in the sense that like that wraps a lot of different products up into just one like neat and clean thing,
Yes.
with like the clean access to leverage, all the different collateral backings, the liquidation mechanism? Is there anything that resembles that out in the wild right now?
So like you said, there's products that resemble parts of it, but there's none that have done all of it in one. And the last big thing to USDO is why Athenas exist and stuff like that is a lot of people will go, CDP stablecoins can't scale. That you can't scale them, you can't get enough liquidity on all the chains to for people to easily swap it and use it, which makes them useless. So that was why we attacked liquidity mining so much, and here's why. You can never sustain external liquidity providers on a stablecoin. Like you look at protocols have to buy VECRV bribes and incentivize liquidity pairs and stuff. And basically the problem is once their token gets dumped enough from being given out for free, over and over and over, they can't retain the liquidity on AMMs, which then makes the stablecoin worthless. And then the entire ecosystem is disabled economically because there's no liquidity. So why would you borrow it? You can't swap out from it. There's nothing to do with it. So that's why the big component to it is we threw that out and we said, look, we need protocol owned liquidity that the DAO becomes the LP to USDO and not us trying to ensure there's always external LPs. So essentially, that's where our call option incentives come in, where you can mint USDO, lend it, lock it for a period of time, and then you get call option incentives every week. With those call options, you make a profit because they're in the money call options. So you're buying a token below its market value and then selling it for a profit. And we get protocol owned liquidity. That protocol owned liquidity that Tapioca creates is then used for AMM liquidity for USDO. So then you have kind of a perfect symbiosis where the DAO then snowballs a bunch of pull for USDO, and you're basically able to infinitely sustain that liquidity being there and grow it, that it's always USDO is always liquid no matter what network you go on.
Yeah, I think that's a good segue into getting a little bit deeper into the options liquidity mining as well, and TWAML. That to me was what really jumped out about Tapioca DAO when I first learned about it. I know there were other teams doing something similar, and there still are. But Tapioca has definitely stood out to me at the time. I was kind of in my like tokenomics research arc then. Can you walk us through? You just walked us through like the thought process behind it, creating protocol and liquidity, and while still allowing the users to profit from using and providing liquidity to the protocol. But how does the mechanism actually work?
Yeah, no. So basically, we put out Death Liquidity Mine probably, I think, October 2022. It's been insane since then. I've seen about 20 protocols last time I checked that were like trying to do their own O tokens like we were doing, which is really cool. When you see that many protocols copying something you did, it's very, it's a big stamp of approval. But basically, how the O token OTAP works is essentially each week, which is an epoch, what we do is we take 3 averages of the price of TAP, so over 3-hour periods, so 3 3-hour snapshots of the price, average them together, and then we get the price of TAP. Then essentially everyone who has OTAP will have a discount that they get. Which I'll touch on that in a second, how the discounts work. The discounts are variable and can go between 0 and 50%. So then basically those discounts are then applied to that ending number, that price that we came up with. And then you have a strike price. And essentially the strike price is the price at which you can buy TAP at. It's fixed. So basically, let's say TAP's $10, you have a 50% discount. That means you can buy TAP for $5 during that epoch. Now, if TAP goes to $20 or if it goes to $2, your strike price is still $5. So during that epoch. So that's how it creates a price floor, because the lowest strike price is the floor for TAP. Like if the lowest option is $5, that's as low as TAP can go. And essentially the difference with liquidity mining is you can think of it as 100% discount, infinite expiry. So the price floor is 0. But so essentially the other thing, which I just alluded to, is the expiry. These options expire each week. So they have a 7-day expiration. You can exercise anytime within the 7 days. After that, the options are gone. And essentially that also caps the sell pressure in that epoch, because like if we give a call option at $2 this epoch and then 100 epochs from now it's 100, that's a lot different profit differential. So those two things basically create a price floor, and also dissuade people from farming and dumping, because the price is not free. Like yield farming, I can just deposit some assets, get free tokens, dump them, and then leave. You can't do that with Tapioca, because you have to buy the option, and also you have to commit to a lock. You have to lock your liquidity provision. You can't just supply it and then, oh, here we go, I got options. So the lock is where the variability of the discount comes into play. So basically there's an AML, average magnitude lock, which basically acts like a measuring stick that appraises locks. And essentially the more people locking, the higher and higher, the longer the measuring stick gets, the harder it is to get the max discount, 50%. Then as let's say people stop locking and the locks start expiring that we had, the discount will start, that measuring stick will start becoming shorter and shorter, meaning you can lock shorter and shorter periods of time to get the max discount. So it's basically finding a market rate for time and liquidity, because yield farms and stuff like that, they're just looking at the liquidity. Tapioca is looking at liquidity and time. And it's like a big line I put in it to kind of underline this to people in the original article was like, it's like if I said I'm willing to lend you $1 million or $100,000, you'll take the $1 million. But it's like now if I say I'm going to give you the $1 million for 1 second, but I'll give you the $100,000 for a year, you'll probably take the $100,000 now, because you can use that money longer. It's the same thing with Tapioca. That 100 grand, Tapioca can produce more fees off than that million, because, what fees are we going to make in a second? So essentially, that I think was the missing component, and that's why the locks exist, and then also the OTAP model. We create protocol owned liquidity off it, which is awesome. And protocol owned liquidity presents a lot of options. When the like Olympus and stuff like that, when you control the liquidity, you have a lot of options to do a lot of different things. And the last thing I'll say is there is the one downside to this is the UX is pretty abysmal of needing to settle options each week. Like, that's not going to be fun for very long. So one of the first protocols we're going to be creating after the sub protocols is TW Pro to automate this. So you could just put your lock position in there, and then it'll settle those options for you every week, and you just see the profits, and that's it.
Yeah, I think for me personally, like, what was most interesting about options liquidity mining is kind of like you started off on this a little bit. I guess just like the paradigm shift of farming and dumping to more productive farming that still rewards users while also bootstrapping the protocol.
Yes.
It's like a necessary thing that's been needed. Maybe not like, I don't know if it's options liquidity mining specifically, but like that shift itself. But it had, I mean, people will farm and dump like mercenaries anyways, and like there's a lot of short-term protocols in the space, and that that works for their purposes, I think. So for me personally, I'm really excited to see like what is already pretty poised to be a big name in DeFi adopt something like that, and see what kind of price chart / like token health it lends itself to in the longer term. I want to be aware of time here. Do you have a hard stop in 5 minutes?
Oh, no.
Okay, perfect. Because now is a good time to, or at least I would like to talk a little bit about community at this point. Because I think you guys have done a really good job of that. We've had some other very good community builders, we think, on here, between like Monad, DopeX. We had someone on last week who I can't remember, who also did a great job of that. How did you guys think of that? Like from day one, between like the Tap Talk episodes, just having people, community members rep Tapioca on Twitter, and openly share it as something they're passionate about, along with the Pearl Club NFTs as well. What was kind of like the thinking from day one as to how you guys wanted to make this community stand out?
Yeah, great question. I mean, so basically when we started off, I always look at things as a DeFi user myself, and like what I've always wanted to see protocols do. And the thing is, you see all these protocols that they pay these clown KOLs to go run around and shill them, and buy our bullshit token at $4. It's a great deal, and then you get wrecked. And just these very like, go get our points here, and we'll have these points here, and go click our ZOE campaigns mindlessly, and like all this bullshit. Like, you're not making a community, you're creating task monkeys that just are doing the task to get free shit, and then they're gone. Like, it's this stupid it like from day one I said, I don't care what the numbers are, I don't care how many fake followers this protocol has, and we have very little. I want to do this all organically. And the big thing is, I've always just thought, as a person who I've like I said, I'm passionate about DeFi. I've had a lot of protocols where I wanted to give them ideas and talk to them and stuff, and they're not around. They have some moderator that talks for them, and they just ignore people. I went, look, we're not going to spend the dollar on marketing. All I'm going to do is I'm going to dedicate my time to talking to this community. I'm going to organically make people excited about Tapioca. I'm going to do like a podcast and things like that to engage with the community, that they can see me personally, talk to me, have full access to me, and treat them as equals, and not as like, here's my exit liquidity that's joined the Discord today, or here's the people who are going to farm my protocol so I can get a bigger val on my seed round. Instead, I look at these people as they supported me. Some of these people for 2 years have been there every day in our Discord, and that deserves my respect. Not like, and I say this a lot to people too who ask me like, how do I build a community? Like, a lot of people go, oh, I'm so annoyed. I have the 15th guy asking me when the airdrop is and details about the protocol. No, and oh, it's in the docs. No, 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 no. You should be really happy that someone's willing to ask you about your idea. You should be really appreciative that that person cares enough to ask you. So it's just about treating people as equals and putting the time in. Like, literally, people all the time will go, how did you do that? And I'm like, just literally, I just put the time in, and I'm always trying to say how much I appreciate these people. And lastly, the socks, the Pearl Club NFTs that you spoke about. We just said, let's give these out for free. Let's make some socks. Just that's where we spent the money. So these people can get cool stuff from us that maybe 2 years from now they go, hey, look, I had tap socks. I was there from day one. Like, it's always of people going like just literally people want to feel appreciated. Like, there's a like it's a two-way relationship. And doing that, I think, was a big way. Like, honestly, I say a lot too. A lot of people, I think, support us just because they know we're trying to, like, some of them maybe don't even understand all the tech behind Tapioca, but they go, you know what? These guys I know are legit. They're transparent. They care about me being a supporter. They do a lot of good things for me. I have fun in this community, and I want to support them. I know they're doing things the right way, and they're trying to buck the trend, and I appreciate that. So let me support them. I think there's a lot. That's a good portion of our community, that they're just sick of DeFi too, and how it's so zero sum, and oh, here, go get our points and BS. Like, I think just doing that alone was a big, like, just the tone of the community was a big reason why so many people came.
Yeah, you hit a lot of great points there. I think I do remember, maybe it's still going on, but I remember being on CT and seeing like probably hundreds of people with like stuff in their bio talking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
this
yeah.
like secret club. And I was like, what is going on? So I do think you guys did a great job like
Thank you.
building a community. And you do point out a lot of the things that resonate, especially with me and Ali, on kind of how these protocols design their initial incentive models. You touched a bit on kind of your thoughts on airdrops and these point systems and these Zeely campaigns. A lot of them are playing out right now. A lot of them have began a few months ago. There have
Yep.
been some protocols that you could say have seen some initial success off of them. How do you think the majority of these play out in the next
Well,
few months, next cycle?
Yeah, here's the thing. So points are just yield farming where you don't know what the APY is. Like, it's the same exact thing. But really, I think people need to keep this in mind. Like, if you look at like all of these protocols that have airdrop, their numbers are huge. And then as soon as the airdrop happens, the numbers go off a cliff. And it's like, it literally feels like to me they're trying to build these gigantic fake communities of people who don't actually care about the product, simply so they can go to VCA and go, oh, look, we have 50,000 people clicking deposit on our test net. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you need real people. You need people to stay there 6 months from now. Like, it's fun and games until the token comes out, and now you need to keep these people around. Like look at Jupe right now. Like, there was this huge excitement and dopamine rush, and then it just went off a cliff. And it's like, you need to be able to sustain this. And like, for me, in Tapioca, because we told people the criteria for our airdrop from day one. 2 years ago, you could know what our airdrop was. And we've kept it that way, and just like, look, we don't care what the numbers are. If you like it, great. If you don't, whatever. We tried our best. And that's kind of the simple truth to it. And I just don't like these little tricks to gamify people into, like, because it's great to gamify certain things, but you have to be able to sustain these numbers. If you're truly a long-term protocol, you want these people a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. And if your retention rate is 0.0001%, it's all for nothing, And I mean, that's the big thing for me, is finding organically people who actually will support this protocol and become liquidity providers, or borrow or whatever from it. And the last thing on the option airdrop was, the airdrop itself is just so zero sum, because it just turned into Sybils clicking buttons and making 10 grand. Like, that's not sustainable. Because people are going to see that. More people are going to come in, as you're seeing right now with like Eigenlayer. It's going to become so diluted that those numbers will go down and down and down. And then they're going to go, wait, I can make more money working at McDonald's than spending my time doing this. And they're gone. So it's not sustainable. And what we looked at with the option airdrop is okay, look, the reason people Sybil it is because the price of entry is 0. If the price of entry wasn't 0, you remove all of the Sybils, or most of them. And the final component is, if you remove the Sybils, what happens? The community gets everything. The real community gets all of the rewards. So I'm hopeful for it, but when I'm very excited when our option airdrop happens, I'm very excited to say, look, in 6 months, these were our numbers of retention and this, that, and the third. And this is comparison to OP, DIM, TIA, etc. And I think it's going to be a very stark difference.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely it's very against the meta right now, for sure. And the
Definitely.
meta is I mean, people aren't really speaking out against it too much, because it's working for community members, or for community members / Sybils / influencers. So
Yeah.
the loud minority, or just the loud group of people who are profiting from it, are able to keep this stuff going, keep this in the meta. It will definitely be refreshing to see a change of pace there. I'm excited to see what that looks like from day one and onwards.
And I just think, real quick, the thing is, when you see protocols building for a narrative or for a meta, it's like, this is a cash grab. You do not actually care about where this thing goes in 6 months or a year. Like, like I said, back in 2022, we were building in the most hated narratives you could possibly like touch: stable coins, interoperability, lending. And now it's like, oh, these are all really hot. And it's just like, I think that's kind of a testament to, like, you just got to build what you see a problem with and where you could see yourself slotting in. And as long as there's a real problem and you have a real solution, everything else is going to work out.
Yeah, well said. A sentiment I think we all wish was more common in this space. I want to start to wrap up here, but before we do, I have one last question, just zooming out a bit.
Definitely.
And it's a big question, because Tapioca is a big project doing big things.
Thank you.
5 years from now, how will a user interact with Tapioca DAO? Whether they want to get access to USD0, where they want a different option for a stable coin, whether they want to use the money market, whether they are trying to generate yield. What are some of the different ways you see that happening in the long run?
I gotta give it to you. That's the best question I've ever been asked. Like, seriously, that's a really good question. You know, I actually write stuff like this down. I don't share it a lot because I fear I'm going to look like Rune, where I'm talking about like Solana AI consensus and like I'm talking about, you know, the Terminators falling. Like it just gets ridiculous. But my vision for you know, like 2030, let's say, is there's no more wallets. There's no more EOA, like EOA accounts, and everything like that. There's no UIs. There's no Tapioca UI that, you know, you're clicking deposit and stuff like this. What you'll do is you'll literally type into a prompt, I want to get yield on my USDO. And then a network of bots will find out the best yield you can get based on that prompt, and then execute it for you from an account. Like literally, there's no interaction from the user. Just, I want to do this with this. This is my, you know, my goal. And then power users can customize more. I want to get this risk adjusted yield, and then I want it to be delta neutral. And then a solver network will say, okay, this is the best way to do that. Done. And you abstract away all of this nonsense with, you know, wallets and network switching and, you know, different assets even, and you know, blah blah blah. It's just all gone. That's my vision, and none of it matters anymore. It's just all user focused. Boom, solver network, done deal.
That's a great answer. You could have just, you know, we could just start a whole another episode right now about how that's going to happen, about the implications of like AI agents and account abstraction and UX and all that. But unfortunately, we can't do that as much as I would like to. I want to end just by asking you if you have any like closing remarks, anything our audience should be aware of in the coming weeks, and if I know you guys have some important dates coming up. If there's any of those you can remind us of as well, that would be great.
Yeah, no. So actually, as we were talking about this a few days ago, but I before the calamity occurred, but basically we just got our final contest scheduled with Sherlock and C4. So we're doing our final audits on Tapioca. 2 contests in parallel. They're starting today, and they'll be ending, I believe, like March 10th. So we're very, 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 very close. We had a date of 224. We got pushed back a little bit because of this blast competition of 1.2 million. All the white hats were like, we're doing that. Sorry. So we got pushed back a little bit, but we're like literally like 2 or 3 weeks out from Genesis. So if you guys you caught me at a good time. It's a good time to learn about Tapioca. So definitely check us out. Tapioca.xyz. And everything's there. If you just go over to tapioca.xyz. Also, a lot of people tell me we have a dope website, so you'll get to be able to see that. So there you go. Tapioca.xyz. But also, this has been a phenomenal time for me. I've great. Really, really happy that you guys had me on here. I've listened to a lot of Exit Liquidity episodes, so it's really cool to be on one myself. And yeah, I'm just super appreciative to be on here, and all the great questions. I think we talked about a lot of great stuff. So definitely, people, I think you had a great time listening to this if you're here live.
Appreciate that. I actually do have one more question. The Bear Chain March announcement came out. Was it yesterday?
Oh yeah. Yes.
You have any insight there? I'm really curious as well on like what that process is like. I don't want to take up too much more time, but what that process is like, and what it means.
Yeah, no, all good. No, so basically, you know, we've been big fans of Barachain. We actually started very close to each other. If you look like when our Twitter profile started, we were pretty like dead on with one another. And you know, we've been friends with them for a while. Smokey was actually on the original Tap Talk on Discord. And basically, yeah, so we've been friends with them for a while. I like what they're doing. I think one little thing. So basically, we see a lot of chains building like, these crazy technical things. I think the big thing is economics in chains and protocols. And I think Berachain nailed it on the head. The tech doesn't matter. It's the economic side of it that I think matters a lot. We've seen that play out with like Manta Network and Blast big time. But basically, I'm really excited about Berachain. So, of course, Tapioca's got to be on Berachain. So we finally announced, it's been a long time coming. We're really excited to be on there. And also, I'm gonna give some top secret alpha here for you. You may be seeing us, Exit Liquidity people. You may be seeing Tapioca on Solana in Blast very soon. So there you go. There you go. There you go. So take that for what you will. For OmniChain, we got to be everywhere. So you may be seeing us soon. We'll see. We'll see.
Exciting stuff, man. I feel like every other episode or so we have a little like Berachain segment where we somehow end up getting onto that topic. So
they're great.
definitely glad to see you guys have been in contact with them for a while.
Yeah.
And very much excited for what might come in terms of new chains as well. That's super stoked to hear that.
No, I mean, just definitely the non-EVM side's the big one, and that's where we're really looking to hit, to really nail this thing home. And what do you know? Maybe within this year you'll see us on 30, 40 chains. I mean, that's the goal. That's the goal everywhere.
Mm. That would be very refreshing. I would love to see that. Matt, thank you so much. This has been great. We've been dying to have you on for a while, so really good to get this one in the books. Excited for the launch coming up. Excited to see you guys do great things. We'll continue supporting from our little universe here. So that's episode 55, I believe. Thanks again,
56.
Matt. 50. God
Thanks
damn it.
again, everyone.
This was the first episode where I got the episode number right, and I totally just ruined it.
There you go, everyone. Well, GN, everybody, much love. Thank you so much, everyone. Exit Liquidity viewers, much love. Thank you so much.